Continuing from where I left up by mistake by hitting the wrong button on my computer here, Jesus says that iniquity should abound and will abound. And so love will indeed wax cold. But he that shall endure to the end shall be saved. Matthew 24, verse 14. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. Now you can tie that in with Revelation 14. If you look in Revelation 14, you will find that near the end time, or just before Jesus returns, an angel will go forth and proclaim the gospel around the world to all nations. That's what Jesus is talking about right here. Verse 15. And when you shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place, whosoever reads, let him understand. That's explained for us in Luke 21, verse 20. Jerusalem surrounded by armies. That's how Luke was inspired to write this part of Jesus' message. So it's interpreted for us, Luke 21, verse 20. Verse 16. Then let them which be in Judea flee to the mountains. You Christians that are in Judea then, Jesus is talking to his disciples. Let them which be in Judea flee to the mountains. Let them which are on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. And woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. Pray you that your flight be not in the winter. So we're not talking about flying off to heaven here. We're not talking about a secret rapture here. We're talking about a flight that is physical. And Jesus said, pray that your flight be not in the winter. It's going to be pretty hard if you have to flee in the winter against these armies and enemies that are coming against Christians, true Christians. And neither on the Sabbath day. The Sabbath day is God's day. It's a day to worship God on, not to be worried about all your cares and woes. Pray that your flight be not on the Sabbath, which also shows that Jesus is saying the Sabbath day has never been done away with. It has never been ripped out of the Ten Commandments. It is still there, and it will be there as he returns. Jesus is saying, pray that your flight then be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day. For then, verse 21, shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. That's also given to us in Old Testament prophecies, Jeremiah 30 and verse 7. Daniel 12 and verse 1, a time such as never been known since man was created on this earth. It will be such a great tribulation. There will be nothing like it. It will make the First World War and the Second World War seem like a Sunday afternoon picnic, friends. It's terrible to contemplate what this end time tribulation is going to be like. It's going to be nothing that you can compare it with. And thank goodness Jesus said it'll be nothing like it again. But it is coming on this world. Verse 23, or verse 22, and except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. In other words, it's such a time of trouble that if God did not intervene, this world, the people and the nations on it would blow themselves to smithereens, would blow themselves away, so no flesh on this entire earth would be alive. And except those days, verse 22, should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. For the elect's sake, those days will be shortened. For the plan of God to be inaugurated, those days will have to be shortened, otherwise there will be no human beings left alive on this earth. Verse 23, then if any man shall say unto you, oh, here is Christ, then don't believe it. For there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, inasmuch that if it was possible, they should deceive the very elect. Now you can tie that in with 2 Thessalonians 2, verses 1 to 12, and you can tie it in with the book of Revelation and the false prophet that is mentioned in the book of Revelation. Because all of these deceivers will finally have the greatest deceiver that will come along, as shown in the book of Revelation. The false prophet who will indeed work miracles and will deceive millions upon millions. Verse 25, behold, I have told you before. I'm telling you, Jesus says. Wherefore, if they shall say unto you, behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. Behold, he is in the secret chamber, believe it not. Trying to say that Jesus is over here, over that hill, or whatever, or he's coming in a secret rapture. He says, don't you believe it. For as the lightning comes out of the east and shines into the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. It will be spectacular. It will be glorious. You will have lightning from one end of heaven to the other. It will be indeed something that everybody will see. There will be nothing secret about it at all. Verse 28. For wheresoever the carcass is, there will the eagles be gathered also. It's an analogy here. When you have a carcass, the eagles come. When Jesus returns, the saints will be gathered up to him, as we will see in the verses in a short while, in these verses here. When Jesus comes, the saints are going to be gathered to him. Now, verse 29. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heaven shall be shaken. There is nothing secret about this, friends. This is power and might such as never been seen by human eyes before. And remember, it is after the tribulation when you'll have these heavenly signs. Now, if you go to the book of Joel and chapter 2, verse 31, you will see that the heavenly signs come before the day of the Lord. Yes, the Bible does speak about the day of the Lord, the day of God's wrath. Yes, Revelation speaks about it. The Old Testament prophets also prophesied about it. But in Joel 2, verse 31, the heavenly signs come before the day of the Lord. Here we have the heavenly signs coming after the Great Tribulation. So you're going to have the Great Tribulation, the heavenly signs, and then you're going to have the day of the Lord, which culminates in the coming of Jesus Christ back to this earth. Revelation chapter 19, verse 30. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. Are you getting the 1, 2, 3 sequence here? Nothing to do with anything secret. It is to do with visible things that you are literally going to see happen. The glorious coming, the second coming of Jesus Christ is one second coming, not two. It is one second coming that is visible and glorious and powerful and mighty. Verse 31. And he shall send his angels with great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect, the saints, from the four corners of the wind, and from the one end of heaven to the other. This is talking about the physical earth and the saints being gathered from one end of the earth to the other. This, my friends, you tie in with 1 Corinthians 15 and the trumpet and the resurrection chapter, and you tie it in with 1 Thessalonians 4. You tie it in with Revelation 11 and the seventh trumpet that will sound, the seventh and last trumpet that will sound in the book of Revelation, and the kingdom of God comes upon this earth. Jesus Christ returns. The saints are resurrected. They're gathered from all over the earth, and they come to meet him. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, they meet him in the clouds of heaven. And so it says there, we shall ever be with the Lord. But where will the Lord be? Paul doesn't tell us in 1 Thessalonians 4. He just says that the trumpet will be blown, the saints will be gathered, they will be with Jesus. It's not given in that particular passage where Jesus will be after that. But we will see in Zechariah 14, in that same day, Jesus will return to the Mount of Olives. This is the 1, 2, 3 sequence, my friends, of the coming of Jesus Christ. Verse 36 here, but at that day and hour when Jesus literally returns with power and might, no man knows, not even the angels in heaven, but the Father only. There are other things that can be explained here regarding this chapter and regarding this teaching of the so-called secret rapture. If you want to go onto my website, keithhunt.com, and look under prophecy, you will find much, much more that I answer concerning this teaching and the truth of what the Bible teaches. Much more of it on my website under the section prophecy. And you can understand then the truth about the second coming of Jesus Christ and the setting up of the kingdom of God on earth.